Hi all, Mike German from Visual Animation. I hope you are all well, and especially if you're in the UK, are you enjoying this wonderful sub-zero March frost, snow? Lovely, isn't it? Yeah. Well, at least it's not as bad as it used to be years ago. It used to be sheet ice everywhere. Now it's, especially in the UK, thanks to global warming, we only have a day or so of this. A little bit of rain and cold, and then back to spring hopefully. So anyway, yeah, I've taken 2 weeks off work, and yeah, not the best time. Anyway, let's get on with this. Let's do, like you've just seen in the video, let's do some upholstery or some embroidery using the stitching method. So how do we do this? Let's get into this, because there's quite a few things to get right here for this to work. So right, what we do then is, first of all, we start off with an arc. Okay, now we want the arc to go 180 on the end angle, right? So the finish point will be across like that, so it's a full arc. So the stitching will come here, arc across, and end over there. Right, so we need an animation before we do any of this, which has this grow this arc from 0 across to 180. So what we do is let's just jump forward to 8 frames. Okay, and then we'll do a keyframe at 180 just here, right? And let's just go back to the beginning and zero this out, and then hit a keyframe. So you'll just get this at the moment, right? Not really very stitchy at the moment, but that's kind of the grow from one side to the other. Right, now if we go to frame 20, what we want to do is we want it to grow over and then pull down, so it kind of pulls down onto the material. So what we do is we just control that with the coordinates here, and I think it's this one. Yeah. So the Y axis, which is obviously the green arrow here, we're gonna make that smaller at frame 20, and we want to go something like 0.2, right, like that, so it flattens it down. At this point, we want to hit a keyframe, and now if we go back to the beginning, we want this to be quite high. So let's go for a 2. Right? So we've got 0.2 at the end and 2 at the start, and then hit a keyframe. So what we should have now is this. Right, let's just zoom out and show you that arc. What it's actually doing. It's going up, so it's quite quick. Let me just keyframe through that for you like this. Look. I can grab the right bit. Here we go. So it's going up higher than normal, and then it's pulling down like that, like the stitch is pulling and flattening at that point. Okay, so that's the basis of this animation. Right, so what we do is, first of all, let's put this arc into a null, and then call that stitch _1, something like that. So we've got stitch 1. Right, so now what we want to do is we want to clone this. We want this to make many of these stitches. So let's just hold that, click on stitch 1 and hold down Alt and click on cloner. Right, so let's change the type to linear. So we just want a linear stitch, but we don't want it going up. We zero out the Y. Let's have it go across the Z like that. Now if we click on endpoint, we can set this to say, I don't know, 800, and then we can just fill a load in like that. Okay, so these are all the stitches. So it'll be quite close together. You know, especially with this embroidery look, it needs to stitch it quite tightly. So let's set that. Yeah, let's say 200. Yeah, let's go 200. Okay, so you've got 800 on the width there, on the length of this, and then we've got 200 in between. Okay, so if we scrub through that, you'll see that they'll all come up at the same time, which is not like stitching, and then they'll come over and pull down. So that's the idea, but we want this to move along from here across to here. Okay, and we want that to stitch as it goes along rather than it all together. Right, so the way we can do that is we have to change a few things on the cloner before we can get this to work. So if you click on cloner and let's make sure I've got the right place. Right, if you click on transform, we don't want the animation mode to be play. We need it to be fixed. So if we go down here and just change that to fixed, and that takes away the animation, because we're going to use a plane effector with a linear path to bring the animation back. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else we need to change at this point. I think that's just changing that to fixed. Yeah, right, so what we do is we highlight cloner, and then we go across to MoGraph and we add a plane effector. Now, as you can see, these are just jumped up. Now, the plane effector by default has everything jump up 100 centimeters in the Y. So we don't want any of this to happen. So we zero that out. We can even turn that off. The only thing we're interested in here is this time offset here. We want that to basically be however long that first little animation takes of it growing over, which I think was up to about 20, wasn't it? We want to put that in the time offset of 20, right? And that brings the animation back. But it still doesn't animate if we press play, okay? It still doesn't do anything. The reason for that is we need to control it with a linear path. Okay, so if I just show you on here, I think it's, sorry, on effect alert, you'll see that we've got this movement there by the strength, okay? But we're going to control this with a linear path. So we go to fields under plane, and then we select linear path. And now we need to turn that round because it's facing the wrong way. So we need to have that. Let's go back to fields and let's change that to, I think it's minus Z. So it's that way, okay? Now let's slide this back to the start. Now, as you can see, that as we pass this along, these threads are shooting up and growing over and landing, and then as it passes through that, it's pulling them down, right? So that is the look so far. So it's kind of getting there. It's not quite right yet because there's a lot more natural kind of randomness we need in this for this to look right. But that's the principle of the movement. Is we'll start off here, we'll keyframe a linear path to then pass along the whole thing and then stop at the end, right? So that's the action of it sewing on. But it doesn't look great. So what can we do to make this look a little bit more like upholstery, or sorry, like embroidery? Well, the first thing we can do is we can have it stitch from both sides. We can have it grow both sides, and we can have, and it will look a lot more organic and a lot more natural if we do that. So what we do is we copy stitch 1, this null, hold down Control, let's make a copy, and then let's call that stitch 2, okay? And then all we're going to do here is if we go to the arc, we're going to go to coordinates, and on the horizontal here, we're going to put in 180. So it's going to turn and then keyframe that. Okay, it's going to turn it all round. Okay, so as we pass now the linear through, look, you'll see. That's not actually worked. That's not actually done anything. So, oh, hang on, what happened there? It just didn't register. There we go. No, that's absolutely fine. I did the right thing. It just didn't catch for some reason. So here we go. Linear field. Grab that, look, and you'll see that it now grows from both sides. But oh, we've got a little bit of a twist going on in there. I don't think that's quite right. Let's have a look at what we've done wrong here. I wonder if maybe let's try minus 180. Let's see if that works. I think we can actually take out the animation here. So we right click and delete the, hold on, let's go to animation, that's right, yeah, and delete track. Let's try that again with the linear path. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so basically, yeah, you don't need any keyframes on this one. It just wants to be set if we go back on the arc, sorry, it wants to just be set at 180. We don't want a keyframe on here and it goes from, I think it was going from 0 to 180 or to minus 180, so it's getting a bit confused. So it's just a straight 180 in the horizontal there. And then as you pass the linear field across now, it's going to grow up, look, from both sides, arc over the top and then come down. But it still doesn't look right. It looks very uniform, it looks very neat. It needs to be a lot more natural and different. So what do we do? Right, so we go to plane, we go to fields, and we're going to control this with a shader field, okay, that we add in there, and we change the blending type to overlay. Okay, now we go on shader field and we go to shader here, the little arrow, and we choose noise. Now you can see what's happening already on the screen. It's starting to look a little bit more natural, isn't it? Where these threads will not be in perfect lines. They will be staggered and overlapping and all sorts. So we click on noise. Let's make this look a bit better. Let's bring this right down to say about 15. There we go. Look, we're starting to get even more change in height because the noise is tighter and it's acting on this arc at this scale. Now we can also play around with the high clip, the brightness and contrast, just to give us a little bit more variation. Let's just go on the side and show you what's happening. We want these to be random. We don't want it an even step. We want to just get quite a random mix of heights here. The reason for that is when you stitch this on, look, the more random everything seems to be, some higher, some lower, it will just look more natural as it all starts to pull down. It's not uniform. Then you've got some still higher here, look, and you can change that with the shader. You just go into the shader, onto the noise field, and you can just play with these, look, and you can have these come up or down. Up there, you can have it lower, you can have it exactly how you want it to look just by playing around with these brightness contrast in the noise shader. Okay, so let's leave it somewhere. Let's just see if we can change somewhere there. Now, you can have endless amounts of time there just making, getting this to how you want it to look. So that's that, and that gives you this very kind of look, but very, very neat still, isn't it? This bit might look a bit random, but when the stitching goes down, it's too perfect. It needs to be a little bit more crossed over and random looking. So how do we add that in? Right, what we simply do is we click on Cloner and then we go up to MoGraph and we add a random field. As you can see, very random, but maybe not quite that random. So let's click on random. Let's have a look at the parameters. And as we can see, that everything's moved 50 centimeters. So we don't want that much movement. We want, I don't know, probably 1 or 2, sorry. Let's put some low numbers in. Let's just put these in. Let's put that even in at 0. We don't want it to move. We don't want it to move. Maybe we do. Yeah, let's move it that way as well. Let's have a look. 2. It's not too. Yeah, let's leave it there. Let's also add some rotation. So let's just see. Now let's have a look from the top and see what's happening. As you can see, that if we do the horizontal, we've got this really nice thread movement where it would actually not be perfectly in line. Okay, it'd be offset slightly like this, and staggered and rotated, and so we just add little bits of, not much here because it will look a little bit too messy very quickly. So we just want to add very small numbers into these. Okay. And now if we grab our linear field that controls this movement, as we move it across, look, we've got, a much more natural look all round. Okay, it's coming up here, look, at different heights, so they're not the same. Everything's much more organic looking and natural. And then as it pulls down, it's all crossing over at the same time, so you're getting this very kind of organic look to it. So that's the principle there, is to do shader fields and then random fields to try to get this more organic look for the thread. Okay, now what can we do now? what can we do now? So we've got the linear field, we're controlling this, so you could say that's perfectly good. That's good. We'll keep it like that. But in my example, I had a star, just to show you how it can take a different shape. So the way we do that is we add another plane effector into here. That's just going to control the shape, and I'll show you how you do that. You click on cloner, and then we go up to MoGraph and we add another plane effector here. Right, so again it jumps up 100 centimeters, so we take that out. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to control a shape using, go to fields, using a linear field. Okay, we're going to turn that round so it's facing the right way again. We're going to open it up to the length of, and we can actually turn this colour off if it's confusing and not looking how you want, just by clicking there, and it'll just all go back. And we can do the same on the other one actually, turn that one off. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? I've lost the, there it is. There we go, look. We can just turn all those colours off. Right, so we go back to linear field, and what we're going to do is we're just going to extend it out so it's, as you know, just slightly bigger. And then we're going to go to, let's go to the plane, let's click on linear field, and then we want to go to we want to go to remapping of the linear field. Okay, and if we go down to the bottom, look, it's got contour and contour mode, and it's none at the moment. So if we change that to curve, and then we get a curve here. Now what we want to do is just make sure that actually we've got that in the cloner. Yep, they're all in that plane, random, and plane 1. Now let's just change the names of those because we're going to get confused. The original plane, let's just add like animation or you know, that to that, and then this one let's add shape because that's going to change the shape. All right, so just put shape in there. So when you look at your cloner, you can see, you know, makes a little bit more sense to see it like that, doesn't it? So we've got those in there. Let's go back to our linear field. Right, so what we're doing is we're going to change this contour on here. Okay, so if we right click and say let's have a linear line here rather than the curve, and also control on the keyboard and then click on this line and give us another dot. Right, so now what we can do is we can pull, I think we push that to the bottom and pull this one up. Right, we actually need this to, so on the plane effector here, what we need to do is we need to add a scale to this, not the position, none of these. We just want to add a scale on here because we want this to start at one size and we want it to change shape and scale as it gets across it. So what we do is we click on scale, and then we'll add a smaller scale in the X, you see. And you can see what it does, it pulls it right in. Now the fact that it sticks out there is because we've added in the remapping this shape, haven't we, this spline. So if we move this spline around, look, you'll see that it changes where that scale is affected. Okay, so we can go right at one end like that, and let's just drag that off so you can see it's complete. So this is now the shape it's going to take. Look, it's going to draw those threads on in that shape. So that is like a point of a star. So what we can do now is we need to clone this into some other points. So what we do is we just take all of what we've just done here, collapse it all down, group it all, select it all, and group objects. Okay, and we'll call this one like star point. Okay, now we're going to clone it. So we can simply just have that highlighted, and we will Alt and click on cloner, and we'll change the cloner object mode to radial, and there we go, it's almost done. Let's just bring that down a little bit. Now if you're getting overlaps here, I quite like them because it looks more organic, it looks more how the stitching would happen. But if you want any adjustments to this, you know, if you say you want to go in tighter there, right to the middle, you've got too much overlap, you can just simply go back to your contour here, which is on the linear path, isn't it? And then we can play around with this, look. So if we move it, it will get out, and we can just fine adjust that until you've got it. So that is the look. That is what we were trying to make. We need to add an animation on here now with the linear path. Okay, so let's just come out and let's take the linear path now. Let's just drag that until, sorry, I'm doing the wrong one. I'm doing the wrong one. It's not the shape we're altering the animation. So we need to click on the linear field animation, and we need to drag that one through. This is the one that's doing the stitching. Okay, don't make that mistake. There we go. So we're going to push it until it's gone past, so nothing is stitching, and then we're going to hit a keyframe, and then we're going to go all the way to the end of 90 frames, and then we're going to push this back out until it goes past, until it's resolved it all there, and then we're going to hit another keyframe. So then if we play that now, let's just get in a bit closer. Let's also turn off visually some of these effectors, because they will start to kind of take over the scene a little bit, and you won't really see what's happening. Okay, so what's going to happen though is, if we get in here, you'll see as that linear path comes along, it's going to start drawing all and pulling all of these stitches on as it passes on all directions. So it's growing the whole thing out and resolving like that. Okay. Now, one thing to add here, if we try and render this now, you'll see nothing. The reason for that is it's only an arc. Right, and an arc is a spline, and a spline doesn't render. So we need to add something to this to make it render. And I think the quickest and easiest way of doing that is, well, we can either go through the Redshift rendering, but I think I'm tending to avoid Redshift stuff in my tutorials just because I want to use standard render. I don't want anything else. I want to show you how we can do this with standard rendering. So what we do is we just simply go to our textures here, our materials, sorry, and we add a hair material. Okay, and if we apply the hair material to the arc, and now we hit render, now we've got to make sure we've got hair render selected. Now we hit it, we will get it rendered. Now obviously, if we don't want brown to white, we can change the color. If we go on the hair map, we can go color look, and we can have one color. Let's choose a nice funky lovely dark orange, which I tend to like, these sort of colors. Let's have a bit of that, and we can actually take that one off. So now if we render, look, got this lovely shine orange. Now the specular is what's giving us this shine, so you can either have more or less of the specular depending on what sort of look you're after. Look, and also we could add a floor, couldn't we? We could add a plane here. Sorry, yeah, a plane. Let's make that bigger. Let's pull that out there. Make sure that sits kind of just, it wants to just come up slightly, so it looks like the stitches are coming through. And yeah, choose any surface you like. I mean, I quite like under the asset browser, I quite like the leather effects, like it's stitching into leather. Yeah, so there's a nice one here. Look, just double click that, add that to the plane. Let's change the projection type to cubic so it makes it a bit tighter. And let's add a light. Just put an area light in there for now. Lift it up. Let's put it into, oh, we're in ground shading lines. Lift up the light, and let's have an area shadow on there as well. And let's just have a look at what we've got now. Okay, so maybe, yeah, let's make that light a bit. Let's bring it up a little bit. Let's turn it over like that. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, well, we can do better, I think. yeah, play around with the lighting. There's all sorts you can do with the lighting. Obviously, I'm not going to. It's not a tutorial about lighting. This is really just about the stitching. And now, I think these are still spread out a little bit too much. Okay. Now we can change that by thickening up the hair. So if we click on hair, we can go to thickness here, and we can say, you know, rather than go from 1 to 0.1, it could be the same thickness. Which is more like a thread would be consistent, right? So we've got the same thickness, but I think we need more lines here on the cloner. So if we go back to our original cloner, and we've got 200, so let's push that. Let's just pull that and see. I don't think it will slow it down at all, this. I think we can keep pushing up there to 500, 600, and I think you'll start to get a much nicer, denser look to it the bigger that you push this. So let's just go up. Let's go 800. Let's push it a bit further. There we go. Nice and tight. Yeah, there we go. I think that's looking a lot better. It's looking a lot more natural and more like stitching now, more like embroidery. So there we go. Have a play. If you get stuck at all, there are files. There's a link below to my files. I've also included a link to how to do this to a logo, okay, rather than just growing it like this, but actually growing it onto paths and logos. There's a Cinema 4D file for this tutorial and the one for logos in my Gumroad account or website, whatever you want to call it, below. So there's a link to that if you just want to grab that. It's a very small fee, and then you can have both of these files and you can see exactly how I've done them, or do it yourself, however you want to do it. Not a problem. Okay, so have a play. There's loads of fun with this. Let's just play it through again just so you can see it. It'll be a bit slower now because we've added a lot more clones into here. There we go, look, they're shooting up out the top of this material. Let's just have a look at what that looks like now if we do a render somewhere there. That might look, there we go, it looks lovely, doesn't it? All this light on there and these shadows, and it looks like it's actually coming up through the material, you see, just having that slightly higher than where it starts. And then as we play that, it will start to pull the stitching down. Okay, let's have another render there, and you'll see it, look, it's all pulled down, look, and all these are all trying to resolve out. It's a lovely effect, and especially when you're doing this with logos and different colors, it can really start to look really, really nice. So yeah, grab the files below or totally have a go yourself, however you want to do this, and good luck. Hope you get on with it, and I'll speak to you in the next video. My name is Mike from Visual Animation. Take care. Goodbye for now.